My dad was great with classic cars. He worked on them when he was in Brooklyn at a transmission shop. So he always worked on classics. I said, let's try it. So put them up on eBay, but I used my filmmaking background. So at the time, this was early on, putting video into an eBay auction. Music, titles, effects, nice backdrop, and the car looks
Dude,
stellar.
you broke the internet at that point.
Kind of. So I was one of the first to do that, I guess.
Yeah.
And we generated such a following out of our house, a one car garage, in 1 year that I mean, it got to the point where people were like, I don't want to bid on any of your Beetles anymore. Did you ever think about building one for a client? And I never thought about it. And I said, well, we watch all these stupid shows on Motor Trend or Velocity or whatever. These
Yeah.
guys are all restoring cars, but I never thought myself could do it. So did some homework, saw what contracts were, talked to some resto shops. How do you break up the payments, that kind of thing. And we started it. But the
I
big
love it.
kicker was to get out of our home was we put a bug up for sale on eBay, and it was a 54 Beetle that we fully restored out of the house. Beautiful car, rare car. And in 2 days, it sold. Let's buy it now. And it went to Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. I said to my dad, all right, we're on to something. The site's getting traffic. I'm getting newsletter signups. We got to get a shop. And so that's what we started. And then from there on, I mean, we've been building cars for people for almost 20 years. I mean, 2 year wait list to build for people. The big highlight of my life was when Mr. Jerry Seinfeld walked right into my shop.
Welcome back to another episode of Kingdom Heirs, where faith meets business, inspiring the kingdom-minded entrepreneur. Today, I've got the very unique opportunity to interview with Chris Vallone with classic Volkswagen Beetles, the Bug. He and his father have spent the past 20 years working on restoring the classic Bug. And he's got 100,000 subscribers on his YouTube page. He's been creating content for 17 years, all about that process. He's even worked with guys like Jerry Seinfeld, walked into his shop and got to sell him some vehicles. Great experience. Let's get started with Chris. Hey.
What you described about your education, your formal education process, you just described the school of hard knocks.
Yeah,
I mean, that honestly is always going to be one of the greatest ways that we can learn, that we can grow, is by experiencing it,
yeah,
right? I mean,
no doubt.
how old are you?
47.
Okay, so you're a 90s product, similar to me, and everybody was pushing us in the 90s and just into the 2000s was computers,
Yep.
right? Right? Anything like web-based design, anything to do with computer repair. And that kind of pushed a whole group, and go to college, obviously go to college, get a degree, get a good job, right? And or go into trades, but the trades they were talking about computer trades. They weren't talking about,
Right.
web designing and everything else, which true. I mean, it makes sense, right? The dot-com era, that was us.
I remember.
So Chris, your background from high, it sounded like you were going to get into some graphic arts and you're going to go in that route. So what put you where you're at today?
So I was an independent filmmaker for a long time, for about 10 years. I wrote, directed, shot, and produced my own films. I did an action film, horror films, animations, got into some film festivals, did sell one internationally, all on a shoestring budget.
I love it.
But the Bug was always in the background as a hobby. And I just wanted to be the artist with a bug. I grew up on Looney Tunes cartoons, which you don't freaking see anymore, which is, I
It's true.
think, a sin. And I just wanted to have my gear and my portfolio and my art supplies in my bug. So
Yeah.
wherever I went, I was that guy with the bug. And so doing 10 years of movies, you're a starving artist, right? I'm doing odd end jobs, right? I'm going to
Of
people's
course.
homes, fixing their computers. I'm working at my sister's pizzeria. I'm selling stuff on eBay.
Yeah.
And, of course, like my dad would say, from Brooklyn, it's not cutting the mustard. So got to start making some more money. And so when I hit my late 20s, I'm like, all right, I can't keep bumping off my folks. If I want a real relationship with a woman later on down, I got to start making some money.
Right.
So I said to my dad, I was like, look, I can't work for anybody because I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My sister's got a pizzeria for over 40 years in right outside West Point. And my dad had a landscaping company. My other sister had a mirror and glass company. So I was kind of around go-getters, people that worked hard their whole life. I mean, my
Yes.
father's got 5 kids, man, out of Brooklyn, married my wife, my mom when they were like 16, 17 years old. I
Right.
mean, just worked his butt off. NYPD officer before Giuliani, before the 70s and 80s when it was absolute
When it
crap
was
in New York.
hard. Yeah, it was rough. The
Hard.
streets were horrible.
Yeah. So streets are hard knocks, like you said. And so I said that we're doing the bug stuff. We got a couple under our belt here. Just a hobby, just to bond together. Why don't we start an eBay business? And this was back, you're talking 16, 17 years ago, 18 years ago. And he was like, he didn't know what that was. Like, what are you talking about? He's not tech, he's old school.
Right.
So I said, I've been reading some books on, entrepreneur, work from home kind of things. So let's try it. So we would go out, I'd look in the classifieds in the old newspaper at the time,
Yeah, dude. I love it.
or when Craigslist was just starting out at that time, and
Right.
looking online, and we'd go out on hunts and find these cars, bring them back, jazz them up. Because I have an art background, so I have good color combinations and things, an eye for detail. And my dad was great with classic cars. He worked on them when he was in Brooklyn at a transmission shop, so he always worked on classics. And so I said, let's try it. So put them up on eBay, but I used my filmmaking background. So at the time, this was early on, putting video into an eBay auction. Music, titles, effects, nice backdrop, and the car looks
Dude,
stellar.
you broke the internet at that point.
Kind of. So I was one of the first to do that, I guess. And
Yeah.
we generated such a following out of our house, a one car garage, in 1 year, that I mean, it got to the point where people were like, I don't want to bid on any of your Beetles anymore. Did you ever think about building one for a client? And I never thought about it. And I said, well, we watch all these stupid shows on Motor Trend or Velocity or whatever. These
Yeah.
guys are all restoring cars, but I never thought myself could do it. So did some homework, saw what contracts were, talked to some resto shops. How do you break up the payments, that kind of thing. And we started it. But the
I
big
love it.
kicker was to get out of our home was we put a bug up for sale on eBay, and it was a 54 Beetle that we fully restored out of the house. Beautiful car, rare car. And in 2 days, it sold. Let's buy it now. And it went to Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day.
That's so cool.
So I was like, I said to my dad, all right, we're on to something. The site's getting traffic. I'm getting newsletter signups. We got to get a shop. And so that's what we started. And then from there on, I mean, we've been building cars for people for almost 20 years. I mean, 2 year wait list to build for people. The big highlight of my life was when Mr. Jerry Seinfeld walked right into my shop. And he was like, saw you on YouTube. I want you to work on my cars. I'm like, no freaking way. It was
That's
just,
awesome.
to be a fan of somebody and he comes to you,
Yeah.
dude,
Seinfeld.
that
Yeah,
was
man.
so. Two cars I did for him, so which was really cool. Met him right in person too. He walked right in, and I was like, "Holy cow!" So
Did he have a
um,
sense of humor on him or no?
he
Or was he
did.
dry as ice? Was he dry as ice?
Like he's different stratosphere, right?
Yes,
Like
he
you're
is.
talking
Absolutely.
billionaire, like the first billionaire comedian or whatever he is.
Yes.
And I guess you can kind of see he's trying to come down to our level.
He's trying to talk
Um,
business with you.
Kind of, like he was humble
Without
and it's
Kramer in the background,
right.
and George with him.
I'm telling you, I didn't bring like any of that up. I didn't want to be
Of
one of
course
those
not.
guys
You're like,
like,
I don't even know who you are, Mr. Seinfeld. I have no idea who
yeah.
you
And he didn't want any sort of a social promotion like me
are. Of
putting
course.
out there that Jerry Spears. He wants to be friends, and he wants to
Not
be able to
not be
stop into my
used.
shop.
Not
Yeah,
be
stop into the
used. Yeah.
shop when he wants to without anybody knowing. So I can't blame him for that. But
Chris,
I
that's
do.
huge, man. That's a huge deal.
Yeah, and that was at a time when my channel was only at maybe 30,000 subs. It wasn't anything special, but again, it was still kind of early on. I guess I was one of the first VW guys to put how-tos out there, and man, did I get chastised from the old guys that were like, "Why are you giving away free information? Why are you giving away our
Of course
tips?"
they are. Yeah,
They
of
didn't
course
see
they are.
that.
Yeah, it was very, very just blocked in front of them. Dude, you opened it
Yep.
up worldwide and they're still sitting in their cities.
Yeah.
You
So
opened it right up.
I thought global, they think narrow, like a
Yeah,
local thing. And I said, no, look, let's give the information away because it comes back to me. And then it did. It came back tenfold,
of course it did.
so yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Before in high school, did you own a bug? Did you
Not
own a
in high school.
VW?
It was in college. Yeah.
In
So,
college. Okay.
and I don't know any other car. So you give me a Honda or a Subaru, I don't know what I'm
Can't
looking at.
figure it
It's
out.
just a Beetle.
That's
So
funny. I've probably owned over 10 Volkswagens.
Oh yeah.
It was the starter car for me. I started with a Jeep Comanche, but that was like a beater truck. It was my very first vehicle, and that was 15 years old. I bought that. I was driving 2 weeks after turning 16 in upstate. I'm from upstate New York,
Oh, okay.
and from the Albany, Saratoga, Schenectady area. And
Okay.
but Volkswagen was like the first real car that I ever got, and I was a senior. It was a '95 GL,
Okay.
um, and that car was tinted out black. It was awesome, 5 speed. I'd
There
be
you
I'd
go.
be I'd be racing Supras at the street light,
Yeah.
and I could get the wheels to chirp in second gear,
Oh
right?
wow.
Just a super cool, just a four banger, not even a VR6, just a little four banger, 2.0. Ton of fun. So from there, my wife and I have bought, my goodness, a ton of VWs, and we even started each of our children off with a Volkswagen. That was a
Nice.
used, they may have been a beater Volkswagen, but I said, look, just start with a Volkswagen. If you start with a Volkswagen, you'll appreciate everything else. Everything else from here up, you'll just, it's a great, the people's car, right?
Yes.
Volkswagen, the people's car of Germany. So it's just very, very powerful. I mean, we love German cars. Have you got into any other German cars? Have you stuck to Volkswagen?
Just the Beetle because I mean that's all I know. Number one, and we're so busy with just that. I mean, we do mechanical repair on the microbuses, so the hippie bus, right, which is
Yeah,
super
that's
popular
cool.
right now. Carmen Gias come in, things come in, so pretty much anything air cooled, even early Porsche 356s will come in because it's essentially a big brother Beetle.
Yes,
So I primarily stay in the air-cooled world, rear-engine cars. So what you had was is beyond me. You know that water-cooled
absolutely.
stuff I don't get into.
The
So
the first Beetle I ever had an experience with was probably 1989. It was 1989. I was young. My brothers just bought an old Beetle. I think it was a '60s, '50s or '60s convertible Beetle. They bought it from the neighbor. It had sat in his garage for 20 years. I mean, layers of dust was thick, and they pulled it out of his garage. I think they bought it for like $500. Rolled it
yeah,
out. We towed it up the street, and my dad was able to work on it and get it going. My dad was a mechanic, also a builder. He could do pretty much anything, kind of like those guys who are born in the '40s. They're raised to do everything, like
yeah,
your pops. And so, but he's in there and he's working on it. Next thing he knows, the engine's on fire. And so the back. So he runs to the back, and I'm like, "Where's he going? The engine's the
yeah.
back, right?" So I'm just, and he's putting this thing out with a sprinkler, trying to put the fire out in the back of this
Yeah,
Bug. It was awesome. It was just such a cool experience to see that, how my dad handled putting out a fire in the back of one of these VW Bugs, dude.
right.
It was wild. So let me ask you a question. What's one of the coolest Volkswagens you've ever restored? And for you personally, something you've loved?
There's there's a few of them, but the one that does stand out to me the most is my 1952 split window Zwitter Beetle. It's called a Zwitter.
Switter.
So Zwitter is a hybrid. There was a 6 month transition phase from late 52 to early 53, where the split window in the back was still retained, but they started transitioning the dashboard to the oval window era, which came in 53. So it was kind of this hybrid transition bug. Volkswagen did that. They didn't really wait to the year after to make changes. Like it would be mid-year, few months into the year, change another thing in the features and characteristics to make things better, and also probably to cut costs. But that was a really cool car. I wish I had back. I put a video out a few months ago about the cars I wish I had back that I restored
Yeah,
because
that's
there's so
right. Buy
many
it
of them.
back.
I wish, man, I mean, but the one I do have right now is also a great one. It's a 54 convertible, which I love. I'm only the second owner to this car. I bought it from the original owners. It was unrestored. I got a 9-part doc series on the whole build of that car on my YouTube channel. So that's a great car too. So there's some holy grail stuff that's out there I wish I can touch, which is like beyond reach of what I can afford now. Because I mean, there's some Beetles out there. I don't know if you ever heard of something called a Hebmuller. A Hebmuller
Okay.
was a coach-built Beetle in the Hebmuller factory from 49 to 53, and it's a two-seat roadster Beetle, and not many people know about it. It looks like there's two hoods on it, so the front hood and the rear and the back hood is also similar to the front hood. So there's a big rear engine compartment on it. So, but it's a six-figure bug.
Wow.
Yeah. So some of those things are out of reach. But what I have now, like this 54, very it touches on that Heb. So I feel like I have a piece of little piece of holy grail here. But yeah, that 52 was awesome. And
Let me ask you something. When you're living in Florida now,
yeah,
how long ago did you make that jump from New York?
so June 29th we came down here last year. So I'm a little over 10 months now. So yeah, the shop is still cranking in New York, though. My pops is running that with my other
Of
guy.
course.
We're in Hudson Valley, so Congers, New York. So it's the uh, Rockland County, Westchester
Yeah,
County.
yeah,
Okay, so
I'm
just a
familiar.
little south of where you are. You still in New York?
No, I'm in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you
We
made the
took
move too.
I took the move 13 years ago. It was the best
Oh,
move of my
wow.
life. Best move of
I
my life.
wish I I wish I did this 5 or 10 years ago.
It's well, I mean, you chose a great state. Obviously, I mean, Florida's a free state, just like Texas is a
Yep.
free state. Um, and to move, I mean, I know how hard it was for me to move. I'm from a large family as well.
Yeah.
The Italian Irish is very, very steeped in keeping family together. You don't ever really leave, you stay. Most of my
Yes.
family is all still in the upstate area. But so for you to leave, were your parents upset?
Yeah, and I was barking up the tree for a long time, and I got big family as well, Italian family, that kind of thing. Tradition, we're kind of a close knit family, so
Of course.
it was hard to get up and go. But there were a few reasons that I did that finally kicked me in the pants. COVID, I think, really showed true colors of New York, and
Yes,
it's
sadly. Yeah,
always been there. But I think it showed its ugly face during that
yes.
time. I was screaming about getting out of there even before that. But so surrounded by hardworking people, right? I put myself through college, two, three jobs I used to work. I commuted, parents working hard, friends that I know, also business owners. To run a business in New York, it's tough. And to
It's very hard.
survive it, you got to work your ass off.
It's true.
So what scared me is that starting to see friends, even some friends my age, dying, getting sick, older friends that I've met that are mentors of mine through the business, dying, have successful business, working their butt off, finally saying, all right, I'm going to retire. And a few weeks later, months later, they're gone.
That's right.
And then when I had found out that I had a condition, um, I'm going to the gym, and which I always do, and I'm doing jumping jacks, and I start feeling my brain jumping around in my skull.
Oh no.
Like, that is a weird feeling. What was that? So I spoke to my sister who's a nutritionist, and I'm like, Danielle, I feel a really weird head problem. She's like, don't screw around. You're
Get
45
right
years old.
get right to the
Let's,
doctor. Yeah.
let's go. Sure enough, do a scan on my head, and I got a benign tumor in my head, right behind
Wow.
my eyeballs on my pituitary gland. It's probably been there for about 15, 20 years. Never
Isn't
knew it.
that wild? Isn't that wild?
There's a
Wow.
lot of people get them. This is called a prolactinoma or like an adenoma. They're usually always benign.
Hmm.
Um, Mine was the size of a ping pong ball. So it's right behind, so it's coming very close to my optic nerve. I could have started getting blind in this eye. And for someone that eats clean, I've been an ancestral diet, paleo diet almost for the last over 20 years. So I don't eat anything
Wow.
refined. I don't eat the pasta, the pizzas, the breads. All the Sicilian, all the Italian stuff is out.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, and I'm putting weight on. And I'm like, why am I putting weight on? And so it was this tumor because it was crushing my testosterone.
Wow.
So I was starting to puff up, looked like I was retaining water. So my sister was like, yeah, it doesn't matter what you were throwing at your body, it wasn't going to change because you had this thing in your head. So that was the
Right.
big kicker to finally say, you know what, life is too short. Between this happening, thankfully I can. It's shrinking. I thought they
Uh,
had to go up like Schwarzenegger and Total Recall and pull that sucker out. But mine's wrapped around my carotid artery, so if they go in, snip, snip, I'm dead. Because they
wow.
do that. They have these little tools that could go up your schnoz and pull it out.
Yeah.
And some people get really screwed up on these things. Mine is a weakling of a tumor.
Wow.
So I spoke to top brain surgeons in New York, endocrinologists. I thought they were going to conflict. I thought the surgeons were going to say, we got to get in there and take it out. The endo guy was going to say, here, take this drug. But they all said across the board, dude, you hit the lottery. Get the hell out of here. You take this pill twice a week, it's going to shrink.
Wow.
So
That praise God
thankfully,
for that. That's a good thing
oh
to be
my God,
thankful
man,
for.
I was
Wow.
so nervous. You say to yourself, you're losing your manlyhood, you're losing stuff like that. And no, it was all because of this thing. And so I said, life's too short. I got to get out of there. And I came down here. I said, guys, it's been real. I have to try it. I have no kids. Let's just go down. Been
Yeah.
barking up the street way too long, and I want to be by the beach. I want to live. I want to calm down. I want my
Yeah.
life to slow down a little bit. Last 20 years of my life has been a blur,
Yeah.
and it's time to cool it. Because look, I don't want to, you put your foot in the grave. The faster life's going on, the hustle bustle in New York.
It's true. The New York minute
So
keeps you moving. And I
yeah,
noticed that moving, I know in South Texas where we are, I mean, we're 2 hours to the border, 2 hours from San Antonio, 3 hours from Houston. It really does move slower here. And that coming from New York, if you didn't get it done yesterday, you're in big trouble, dude. This needs to be
yes,
done. It needs to be done now.
yes,
And that New York minute is I think it's a good work ethic, and it gives us the upper hand in a lot of
yes,
things in life.
I
But
agree.
to your point, it can suck life out of you as well.
Yeah, stress is a
You know,
killer. You
stress
know,
is a killer. It's the silent killer. They call it the silent killer, stress.
it is, and it ages you. And to see friends of mine just finally saying, "Well, what am I going to do? I've been working my whole life. When am I going to finally retire?" Because you feel like you're constantly holding on to the gig,
Yes,
to
that's right.
work. And it just gets to and I've been working since I'm 12 years old. My dad
Yeah,
grabbed me,
dude.
"Hey, you cut
Same
lawns
here.
with me. Let's
Same
go."
here. 10 years old, I had my first job at a pizza shop.
There you go. That's it. And I'm saying to myself, Jesus, and I know we're still kind of young, but I just feel like I want to enjoy life a little bit. Let's see how it goes down here. I think it's going to be fine. I'm
Yeah,
actually going to be flying up around the 4th of July weekend to see everybody. But
nice.
last couple times I went up there, I was there for 2 days. I couldn't wait to get the hell out of there.
Well, what's going to happen is you're the guinea pig. Your family's watching to see how well you do, and then they're wondering if they can make the leap with you. I'm certain of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that was always the dream. I think for a lot of New Yorkers was to move south, right? Is to make that trip down, but to leave everything is hard, especially if
Yeah.
you've got established businesses back home. And I mean, what do you do, right? And I think retirement, for the most part, it sets us up for this, the pie in the sky concept of how life is going to be so great when we retire. But you've literally missed your life for the past
Yes.
50 years. To wait to
Exactly.
retire, you're 65 and 70 years old. For what? To go play golf all day? To do what? So I think that's a thing for, you and I are part of some different, masterminds and different things like that, different business guys that are doing extremely well. They run at really fast paces. They have extremely full schedules, um, but they're doing really, really well. I mean, they're bringing in huge money. But Chris, you and I know, in the end, that all comes at a major cost.
Yes.
It's a major
Well,
cost.
it's funny you say that because I used to have guys come to my shop, guys, Wall Street guys, hedge fund guys, real estate guys, make a
Yeah,
ton of money, house in the Hamptons, million,
yeah,
multi-million dollar guys, working 70, 80 hours a week, right? Come
yeah,
to my shop as a therapy getaway.
yeah,
They used to love coming. They're like, Chris, can I just come and sit? Can I just make a cappuccino for me? I had a cappuccino machine. We sit and
yeah,
talk cars. My dad's super down to earth. The Beetles look like toys. They look like
yeah. Of course.
Skittles. My wife calls them
Yeah,
Skittles because of multicolors. And it just going back to their youth and just, they were envious of me, like saying, Chris, you're doing something right here. You might not be making millions of dollars, but you know what? You with your pop every day and you're playing with toys, and there's a value there, there's a bond there, that you'll never forget.
that's right.
He's Some of them told me stuff. One guy in particular is like, "Look, my son's 7 years old, and I don't remember 1 through 6
Yeah,
because I've
yeah.
been working." There's something to that. So I felt like, yeah, I don't make as much as these guys, but my other payday is coming to work, working on what I love to do, and working with my dad. Sometimes we butt heads,
Of course you
but
do. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
But he wouldn't have it any other way. Think about it. He wouldn't have it any other way. Neither would you. I think some of my greatest moments that I look back now, my dad has since passed, is to look back and reflect on the time we actually spent together working together on a project.
yes,
It's wild enough, but those were the connection points that we had.
yeah,
Was working on projects together, and thinking about success, and you bringing that up with these guys that are bringing in tons of cash. It comes at a big. There's a downside to it, and I'm all about business, and I'm all about being
Me too.
successful and providing an awesome product for your clients and a great experience for your customers, like all of that. But I have found that when you climb to the top and you set a massive big goal and you hit the goal, and when you've driven to hit that goal for months, years, however long, and when you hit the goal, you're like, where's the fireworks? Where is
Right.
the, where is the, I thought it was going to be like the sky was going to open up and everything was going to be like, wow, this is awesome. And we thought we would live at that height. We thought we'd
Right.
live at the height of that for years, right? Because we put so much energy and effort into crushing this goal and I've seen this happen to a lot of guys. I've experienced this as well. You hit the goal and you're like, depression settles in.
Sure.
You start feeling like, what was it all worth? Was it all worth that? Just so I can hit
Yeah.
a million, two, six figures, seven figures, eight figures, 10 figures, right? Like, what is it? And so I found that I was missing, you brought it up, I was missing the day to day. I was not focusing on the fact that, look, today I had an opportunity to be a coach for my kids, third grade soccer. I'm
Right.
like, my wife said, look, James, if you're not going to take these moments, you're going to be really, really disappointed. My wife and I have had 5 kids, and this is my fourth that she said, James, if
Wow.
you don't take these moments right now to be involved, you're going to be really upset at yourself
Yep.
that you didn't take it. And I'm like, well, I got a lot going on. I shouldn't do it. I don't know anything about soccer. She goes, who cares? It's third grade. What do you really need to know? I
Right.
found I need to learn how to teach them how to tie their shoes. Like, that's what I found. Look, tie your cleats, right?
Yep.
But to the point, it's just taking those moments, and I loved every minute of it. And that to me was like, you know what? This is awesome. It was a great experience. And that was in
Hmm.
the middle of my craziness of my work schedule. I just paused my schedule and I said, look, it'll wait for me when I'm back. When I get back to the office, I'm going to go be involved.
Right.
So that's a win. That is a win. I feel like
No
now
doubt.
you're hitting success. You're reaching success while your business is doing well. If your personal life is in shambles, your business isn't going to always do so great. It's just not.
That's exactly it. And you can't take the money with you, right? You hit the grave, you can't
No,
take it with you. So,
it's true.
you know, I've met a lot of people that are super successful but very unhappy.
Yeah, it's
Unhappy
true.
with the way, and in the end, to me, health and well-being, your friends, your family, your relationships, which I think is a dying thing today. We live in
It's
this
true.
tech world today, and this face-to-face communication is going away with the youth. The fact
Yeah,
that they're walking their dogs, they're doing stuff, they're constantly looking down. Nobody's looking at
true.
each other anymore. We grew up in a time when, if we had a beef with somebody, if we had the
You get right in front of
quote
them.
unquote, you got to get the spine to get in front of them and say something. Now you're behind a screen without showing your
Yeah,
face, and that's
it's
that's the
true.
way the world is, which is
Uh,
terrible, I think. You
that's
know,
hilarious. It's funny that you
so
say that. Yeah, you're right. We didn't have text messaging. We didn't have direct message. We didn't have DMs. If you had an issue with somebody, you
I'll
got
meet you
right in front of
outside.
them. Yeah, let's
I'll
go.
meet you.
Yeah.
Yep,
And then
yep,
normally we could talk it out, and it was squashed. There's nothing
right,
else after that point. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a great point. Thinking about your industry, thinking about what you're doing. I mean, it's very niche. I mean, obviously it's part of restoration, but do you see the young group? Do you see the young crowd? What's your plan to bring in? Um, when you and your dad are gone, who's taking over? Right? Is there gonna be a torch that's passed?
Right.
And if so, what's your strategy to bring in the next generation? There's a
Well,
lot of
that's the
young
question.
guys that want to be they want to be involved, but they may not have any cash to restore a car, whatever type of car, whatever it is. Just what's your recommendation? What's your advice for these young guys?
It's a very good question, and that was one of the things I brought up to PBD in the class, and I briefed on it, and I think he went right over it. When I was talking about, there's two issues I'm facing today. The fact that the older talent is either retiring or dying off. My
Yeah,
dad's 74, and he's running my shop with another guy that's in his late 60s, also retired, but know these cars in and out. They're not distracted by the gadget.
right.
So they get to work, they have their coffee or whatever in the morning at lunch, and they keep going. Um, the youth today, even the young mechanic that's working at a local, say, mechanic shop, you bring them a Volkswagen or any classic car, they don't know what points are. They don't know what a condenser is, distributor, timing. They
So
don't know
old.
these.
Yeah,
It's so old. So there's a lot of training and curve there, to bring that on. It's a challenge because even other shops that I'm talking to across the country, and the 5 different paint shops that I use today in New York still that I job my paint and body work out to. That's the only thing we don't do in shop is paint and body. I job that out.
Hmm.
Everything else is
Yeah.
in house. And they all cry to me the same blues. I mean, one guy gave me one quote one year, which I was like, "What the hell, man?" He's like, "Every month, I I hire 10, I fire 9,
Yeah. Yep.
and it's a constant no work. You know, the ethic to work today, 30%, 40% is like normal.
Yeah.
You know, come in late on Monday. Can I leave early on Friday? You know, one guy told me he had a guy that he just hired, comes in the one week, next week doesn't show up, all this ghosting, right? And then the following week comes in
Shows
like
back up.
nothing ever happened.
Hey,
He
I'm
pulled a
here.
total George Costanza, you know, just coming in like, oh, what do you thought that was weird? Yeah, you know, I had something to do. What do you don't call me? You don't tell me? Like there's no communication. And they all want to be at, you know, CEO in 3 months.
Levels. Yeah, of course
You
they
know,
do.
so we did have a great intern out of England. A kid came in, 19-year-old kid. This was a rare bird kid. This kid was not distracted, with put his gadget away and came in, worked with my pop for 2 months. Great kid, super rare. And then I hired one kid one time out of a trade school,
Yeah.
restoration trade school, moved to New York to work for me, and completely opposite. You
Wow.
know, the bathroom was the internet cafe,
Jeez.
and
Yeah.
you know, in there for hours. And I'm like, all right. So it's tough. I mean, you know, hearing the horror stories and stuff. So I don't know. You know, that's why I'm in some form of a transition period right now with the business. I did move to Florida to hopefully, you know, maybe you know, phase out the shop in New York because let's face it too, it's tedious work. It is nice. I mean, you get your hands bloodied up and you do curse and swear when you put them together, and it is
Yeah.
glamorous at the end when they're all done.
Right.
And to show families, like I've done great stories with and restorations for families that you know they own the car since say 1958,
Wow.
and the grandson sends me the car from Texas, and he's like, "Restore this car. I'm going to surprise my dad." Flies his family up. We do an unveiling in the shop. Those are special stories. You know, those are really. That's what's great about the Volkswagen because the Beetle has so much history.
Yeah.
Yes, it started with the Nazis, but when you start hitting the 60s, the 70s, you know, the revolution period, the
Yeah.
hippie, everybody has a damn. I cannot go to the gas station without being there for half an hour. Without someone coming up to you saying, "My dad had one of those. I used to sleep in the back seat. He used to take us out here. We used to do this, and we used to see the road going underneath our feet when we
Yeah.
were driving, you know,
Rotted out. Yeah. Rotted out
and
floorboards.
freezing our butts off in the winter because the car had no heat." You know, all those stories that people who worked tough back in the day, who could only afford a $300 car,
Yeah.
you know, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. Um, that's what's special. But you know, it's in the end, you know, you get it starts to put a fatigue on, you know, how much longer could we keep going doing this?
That's
And
right.
now I was trying to say ask PBD, you know, not for nothing, but I don't have a crystal ball. When this generation starts dying out, like the generation for the Model T and Model A that I brought up has died out, the
Yes.
popularity of that car has dwindled. You could pick up a
Yes.
Model T today for, you know, at $15,000, which is nothing.
It's true.
Um, you know, so the Beetle is still very popular. We still get it's a lot of demand right now. But I'm trying to foresee. I don't know with the youth. I mean, I'm sure there's still good kids out there
There
that
are.
want to work on these things. A lot of the kids do want to convert them to electric, so
Yeah.
there is an interest there. I thought that was going to take off uh, a little faster because that started coming in a few years ago, and it's kind of really settled. A lot of the purists out there are still like, no, not going to go electric yet. And then the other big issue we run into right now are the quality of the parts.
Yeah. Right.
I don't make the parts. I try to get them from the best places I can. When the true German part is finally washed up or taken or dried out or whatever, and now I'm only left with China stuff, Brazilian stuff, Mexican parts, and I'm talking wheel cylinders, master cylinders failing within just
Yeah.
months.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I don't need someone dying on a car crash off my car.
It's
You
true.
know, we had one of our clients had her steering wheel pop right off in her face while she's going just thankfully down her driveway.
Oh
And it
my
was
goodness.
the quote unquote German steering coupler that we put on brand new. just shattered.
Oh my
And it's nothing
goodness.
complex down there for a Beetle. It's just this little
Right.
disc that connects it to the steering bar and
Pop it back
broke.
on.
And she was like, I don't want the car anymore. You know, I couldn't blame her. Could you imagine if she was on the road and that thing popped in her face? So I have no control of the parts. I try to get the
Right.
best I can. But when I'm getting a German box mailed to me with a Taiwan part in it, this is a
Yeah.
problem,
No, you're
you
right.
know.
You're right.
So those are the two issues I do have. The youth, getting them on board. Who could I hire? Um, and parts. So when I brought that up
The
to PVD, he just said, "Nope, go hard, go balls on with your YouTube. Continue with that, and start doing better content." Basically saying, "Go do better content, and you'll see your numbers go up." So
Yeah, no,
I've
I
been doing
get it, but
YouTube.
that doesn't solve the issue of having the workers, right?
Right.
And so some of the things I would think about, my daughter and I were on the call yesterday, and she's like, "Hey, slug bug contest," remember?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
she's a 21-year-old that they've been doing slug bug things for 5 years,
Oh, that's
right?
cool.
And so it's cool, man. That means her generation is still aware of the VW, right? And
Yeah.
being the fun stuff about it. So, I think that there's to engage the youth, doing a contest on YouTube that will engage them is cool, right? And
Yeah.
obviously, I think if you're going to do more content, well, you got to go after the demographic that's young
Yeah.
enough. And I think is it Gen Z? Gen
Yeah.
Z has got a hunger. They have
Yeah.
a hunger. They are not going to be like the generation that's above them.
Yeah.
They're not. They saw that. They saw the millennials. They saw the next group, and they're like, "Man, you guys are, yeah, we're different." And it's been 20 years. I mean, it's a different group than it's almost similar to how we were when we grew up. We are going to go out and figure it out. We're going to go out and make our way, right? And just, I mean, I'm just above the millennials. Millennials kind of had a different, I don't know, it's a little different, and I don't
Yeah.
identify with millennials at all, but not negatively. I just don't personality wise everything. But I think what I'm seeing is that these younger guys that are right now 17, 18, 19, they want to get their hands dirty. They want someone to instruct them, to teach them. They don't like the fact that everything's going automated. I mean, obviously they
Well,
like their devices, right?
yeah.
But there's this young group right now that wants someone to take them under their wing and teach them. Teach them. I mean,
That-
it's like old school apprentice, old school.
That's great to
You
hear
know,
because I
and
didn't think that.
it's true. So I think there's definitely pockets, right? I think the more liberalism and wokeness comes in, I think one of the greatest things Trump could have done was call out the media. Was it 5, 6, 7 years ago? The
Yeah.
fake media, fake news. One of the greatest things I think he did. Like, he did a lot of good things, but that was probably one of the greatest things that opened people's eyes up to say, "You're right. We are being brainwashed. We are."
Yes. Yeah.
And the younger group is like, "I don't want to be brainwashed." And I'm seeing that. And I'm seeing that. And Texas is great. Florida's good. I know there's a lot of other states out there that these guys are, they're free thinkers. We want free thinkers, right? Not robots. We always need to be free thinking and teach our children to be free thinkers. Process things out, question everything.
Yeah.
Don't just conform, right? But what can you bring value? How can you bring value to your community? How can you bring value to your family, to your neighbors, to your country, to your state, right? How can you bring value? What can you do? So I think that there's opportunities where you guys, if you've got a great following, you guys have, what do you have, 100,000 subs?
115 right now. Yeah.
Dude, that's huge. How many years did it take you to build that up?
Too long.
Yeah, that's all
You
right,
know, it's
dude. I
funny.
get it.
I mean, look, I started YouTube 17 years ago, and I remember it took off really fast. I remember hitting 30,000 subs very quickly. But then when I hit like the 40, 50, man, it hit a brick wall.
Mm,
And I couldn't put my head around it because I was saying I'm doing good content. I'm studying up what these gurus are telling you to do with thumbnails and
yeah,
tags
yeah,
and
yeah.
description,
Algorithms
all
and
that
everything else.
BS. And I
Yeah,
got a production background, so at least the
you should be
quality
able
of
to
my
do
videos
this.
have some quality to it compared to some guys that are just using their
I know.
phone
I've
and they
seen
don't
it.
even. Oh,
I've seen it,
and
and
I
they're doing great. I'm like, what are you doing?
and they,
How do you do
yeah,
that?
like I don't understand. So I hit 75,000 subs just a few months ago, and then once
That's
it
huge.
hit that point, I mean, I got that silver play button in 2 months. After
Wow.
that, it skyrocketed from 75,000 that quick. So I don't know what algorithm change. YouTube also did implement YouTube promotions.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've
I've seen
seen
that.
that.
I've seen that. Yeah.
So that in essence is real quick is Google AdWords embedded into YouTube. So if you ever wanted to promote your videos, you used to have to go outside to AdWords, set up a campaign to then
Right.
push to your videos. Now it's within YouTube itself, it's in your back end, and you can set up an easy campaign. It's very simple. And so I started throwing a few bucks at it, and I never did that before.
Yeah.
And I know there's services out there that say, "Oh, we can get you subs or we can get you hits and stuff," but they're all bots. So if
That's
you
what I
go that
figured.
route,
I totally
you
think they're buying bots at that point.
you're
Yeah.
buying bots. So YouTube knows that. So I never went in that world, but to actually within YouTube, I said, all right, let me give it a shot. Some other gurus were like kind of poo-pooing it. I said, let me throw 25 bucks at a video, and I finally did a new trailer video for my channel, and I did that, and man, it just with I mean over almost within a few weeks, I couldn't believe how it was going up. I'm like, see, sometimes I think when you have I have an old channel now. I think in the tech world, in the YouTube world, social media world, 17, 18-year channel is an old fart
It's very
channel.
old. Yeah, it's very old. Yeah.
So I don't think the platforms probably they don't like that. I don't think because I probably had older subs back then that are not engaged today.
Sure.
So when you put out a video and maybe they get the notification, they don't click on it and go to it, that looks bad for you.
Sure.
YouTube doesn't like that. So that messes with your algorithm. And all I kept saying was, I don't see my video suggested on the side. Why not? It's so weird. So, but then you throw a few bucks and all of a sudden you're suggested. And I kept thinking to myself, maybe my videos suck. Maybe I should just hang it up and stop. I really did. I finally said, I was saying to myself, there's other guys that are surpassing me. And I don't know, but I kind of think my content's just as good, if not better than theirs. Um, so all of a sudden now YouTube starts promoting. I say all of a sudden, yeah, the bot doesn't realize sometimes how good your content is. Maybe I
I
don't
love
know.
it.
If they're
That's
not
good.
promoting you, all you needed is I just needed that little bump, and now all of a sudden I'm getting the views.
Chris, I'm thinking, what I'm thinking, just a suggestion with all the reach that you have, why not run a competition where you encourage the older generation, people that these things were original for them, to get to all the kids that they know, their grandkids, their nephews, their nieces, and get them to send in videos to you. The videos would be of them saying why they want to be part of restoring, why they want to be a restoration guru, why they want to be you, and have them do a video of them fixing something, doing something that impresses you. You select maybe 10 people, 5 people, and you bring them into your shop, and you do a 1 month show. Do a show with teaching these young guys, and get them young, get like 24 and younger.
Yeah.
People who haven't really made a career yet, haven't found a career, haven't gotten the path yet. Get the younger guys in there and do a show of make a movie, get back to your roots, make a movie, a short of these guys in the shop, trying to figure this stuff out, getting blood on their hands and just blood, sweat, and tears, right? And and raise up. You've got to put the call out there. You've got to raise
Yeah.
up the next generation, and it won't be only for you. It'll spark something in society. It'll spark it again. The young guys can get their hands dirty, right? And they want to. They want to. They don't necessarily have cash to do it. They don't necessarily know how to do it, but they want to get their hands dirty. It's my daughters telling me this stuff all the time. They're like, Dad, the young guys, they want to show that they're men. They want to do something, right? And I agree. They need to. They
Yeah.
need to. They need to be men, right? Call a man a man. And what makes someone a man, right? And getting back to those, how he provides
We
for his
need to.
family, how
Yeah.
he provides for his family, how he can go out and show that he's self-sufficient, how he can then care for someone else. I've had guys come up to me and say, hey, I'd love to marry your daughter. I'm like, who are you? I'm like, you want to marry my daughter? That's great. And what do you do? What do you plan to do? What do you do currently? Like, do you know how to fix stuff? Do you know how to provide? Like, I mean, like, what have you done that makes me, as the father, say you would be a good guy to take care of my daughter forever, right?
Right.
And I think young men need that. Society doesn't expect anything from anybody anymore.
Right.
We've all said, forget about it, right? These guys are a waste. Give me a new batch. I just think that you've got an opportunity where you can do that with something as eclectic as the Bug,
Yeah.
right? It catches everybody's eye, and I think if you do a call out, you will get you'll get a lot of people that will respond that will want to be part of it. You bring them into your shop, you do a video of, you make a movie, a short of you teaching these kids what it takes to be a restorer. Shoot, you may even score a show out of it with one of the networks. Um,
They
but I'm
came to
saying,
me a few times.
yeah, this is what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
really, if this is really, and in that process of what you get out of it, you might wind up moving your shop to Florida. You might wind up a second location. Your parents at some point are going to want to be close to you, especially if you show them it can work in Florida. That's just how it works. It's just how it works,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so I'm just saying, like, that would be not very hard for you to do. Really
Yeah.
wouldn't be. You'd go spend a month back home, or 2 weeks, and you go there and film it and cut it up and put it out. And you've made a good reach, and it shows now that you're not just complaining about it. Now it shows you're actually doing something about your problem.
Right. Well, that's a good thing.
And if it doesn't work out, at least you tried,
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
because then
exactly it.
the next thing will come through then at that point.
Yeah,
And
because
now
I
you're,
had a
yeah,
very gloomy outlook of the youth. Maybe I'm old school like my pop, but
yeah,
for what I've seen and what I've spoken to with other mechanics and other shops, complaining about the youth, it scared me.
yeah,
Because
of course.
I'm not a type of person like I'm not a type of guy to have a 16-man crew kind of a
No,
shop. I like to keep it lean and mean. Um, but the experience I did have with that kid from England, that was a great one. So maybe the possibility is there. I mean, I love getting some of these stories of father son projects. Those are great. Father daughter projects.
super
Those are
cool.
really nice. And I've done a few videos on. I do have a show on my channel called Show Us Your Dub, which is people that sit with their car and they talk to me about how they restored it, where they found it, the stories like that. Those are pretty cool. But that's through like a Zoom conversation here.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like what you said, hey, get a youthful kid. What you want to be a restorer? You want show me what you got? Are you unfinished with your project? Bring it in. Let me show you. That kind of thing.
It'll
That could be.
definitely, it kind of puts them in the apprentice model again, which people love the apprentice. I mean, that just to see
Yeah.
it, but to see it from, instead of a boardroom, but to see it from a trade perspective. I'm a carpenter by trade. That's my
Oh,
background.
very good. Yeah.
Home builder. That's my remodel guy. That's me. That's because my
Wow.
dad raised us that way, and we were around it all the time. And so, for me, trades are huge. They really, really are. But in the trades, you need someone, an older guy that's going to take you in, break you down,
Yeah.
right? The guy who's submitting, he has to submit himself to the lead. So at that point, he can be built back up so he could take the role.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the style of apprenticeship, right? And it starts young. So
For
I think
sure.
that's the reality of what's going to happen with the trades, is that these guys are going to come in young again and get them on a pathway, and they're going to make their money. But not only are they going to make their money, they're going to love what they do with their hands.
It's funny you mentioned that because I feel that schools today they don't like. I grew up with wood shop, metal shop
Yep.
in schools.
Yeah,
They're like absent today. You
that's right.
hardly see them. I mean, you go to gym class today. You know what I mean? You don't even have to pass a physical fitness test and do a certain amount of pull-ups and run the mile in a certain amount of time. Like all that stuff is gone. It's out the window. I remember PBD on one of his podcasts was saying though, he brought up some statistic. The so since AI is coming in heavily now, um, they're the technology is moving so quickly that these kids that are going to tech schools, MIT or Stevens, or learning, computer science or computer engineering, whatever like that, he's saying, you're going to spend a ton of money on those programs to get out of school, be hundreds of thousands in debt, and that AI technology is going to take that over. But the
Like that.
electrician, the carpenter, the mechanic, the plumber are still going to be needed, and they're going to be the ones more in demand, which we are. Becoming
It's
more and
true.
more in demand,
It's true.
and they really need to bring trade back in and start. That's why I love Mike Rowe, Dirty
Yeah.
Jobs.
Yes.
He
Yes.
promotes that stuff because it's not glamorized in schools. It's not. being an Instagram sensation or a YouTuber. Like you asked a little kid today, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a
A
YouTuber.
YouTuber,
I mean, when we grew up, it was like I want to be a fireman, I want to be a baseball
police
player, I want to
officer.
be
Yeah.
a police
Football
officer.
player.
Something like
Yeah.
that's
No, that was
gone. I mean,
glamorous. That's glamorous. That's what we all looked at as saying those are people that are contributing to society.
yes,
Even sports players contributed because it gave a form of entertainment for us all to rally around our team and
yeah,
sit around sit around the field or the couch and watch a show together,
yeah,
a game together. Yeah, dude. Yeah, those are the things that are bringing. It's the pendulum. The
yeah.
pendulum,
It's
dude, is
swinging.
swinging. It's
Yes.
swinging. So we're now with this new generation. I'm seeing it. I've got a lot of young guys that work for me right now, like young guys. I mean, I've got a couple that are 17, turning 18, finished high school early, working with me 4 days a week. I mean, I've got guys that are hungry and they want me to teach them, right?
That's
And
good.
we're building, we're doing construction, and so this to me is, dude, I love it. I love it. I've got a lot of young people. Half my crew is under 30 with me. Half my guys, and I got the other
Wow.
half is like, and the other half of the people who work for me are like in their 60s. Why? Because that was a
Wow.
great generation. Those are the
Yeah.
guys that love to work. They can
Yeah.
work. They're diligent. They show up. And I've
Yeah.
had close to 400 people work for me over the past 7 years.
Oh, man. Wow. That's great.
400. I've
Whew.
fired a lot of people. I hired 10 and I'd fire 9. That was me.
Right.
In the trades. In the trades. So you still got to go through that. You still have to, but we need to. Our generation have to change. We have to stop complaining, and we got to be the people who bring the solution, because
Very good.
people reach people. We reach people. We are fully engaged with the fact that, look, Chris, you can speak into people's lives that somebody else can't, that a
Right.
computer can't, that an app can't speak
Right.
into their life. You can do that. Why? Because you're real.
Yeah.
You're tangible. You're tangible. You can build them up. You can tear them down, right? And you can inspire them, right? And they see that you are someone who started like them, but you should look. I put the work in. I put my time in. Look, after 15 years, I'm X, Y, Z. Well, it took you 15 years. That's a lifetime. It really is not a lifetime when you're
No.
the perspective, So I think we've got to be the solution. We can't just be complaining about all the problems. And that's the old generation. They just like to talk a lot about,
Yeah.
oh, these kids these days, they're not like my kids. Dude, forget
Yeah.
that. Look, solution oriented.
That's what we got to be. You saying some true words there, and I guess I have a little of my father in me that's old school. That's like
Well, we all
Jesus.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so true. Like you're giving me a little glimpse of hope. Because I for a while, even down here, talking to people down here, they're like, oh, it's tough to find the right guys to work on them, and even the
Yeah,
painters down here. I mean, the Florida life is slower. They
it
are
is.
on they're on island time
Island
here
time.
compared to
Yep.
New York. We have this, to get up and go. I mean, I've been working from home down here for the 10 months, and like my days are full.
Of course they are.
Whether I'm doing a Zoom call like this, I'm dealing with my clients, I'm dealing with my parts, I'm doing my books, the social media stuff. I mean, it's all day, and I do miss going to the shop. I got to say. I mean, so
Oh
how some
yeah, of
people
course.
work from home, and interacting with people and playing with the cars is really cool. So I'm still up in the air to get a shop down here or not.
Yeah,
So
I think it'd be fun to see. It's going to be fun to see what you decide to do. If you do decide to bring in your group, like to do a contest of some sort. I think it's going to be a
yeah,
fun. It'll be fun to watch that. I think really you're going to find a following of young generation people that will want to come work for you under strict guidelines.
yeah,
And this is just what it is, guys. If you want to be where we're at, and here's the joy aspect of, you can appreciate everything that you bring to your client experience because they love it. They love the nostalgia effect. That's a 10 out of anything. If you can get somebody in
yeah,
nostalgia, you've just made their day. I don't know. You've got a lot to sell. I mean, there's a lot of sizzle in that.
yeah,
And to get guys in and eventually shoot, even if they can make what, $20 an hour, a young kid making $20 an hour, $18 an hour to start. I mean,
yeah,
if you could get them to that point after their program, shoot. I don't know. That'd be wild. You need some old
yeah.
timers to come out of retirement. You know, the arthritis would be hurting them, but they got to loosen up their fingers and show these kids how to work
Yeah.
a carburetor.
Well, and that's the one thing my dad does like doing. He does. I told him, you're at the point, get off the cars. Let's, if we did hire somebody, because I asked him the other day, because he's like, he's telling me, look, don't take on any more orders, man. We're busting at the seams here. So I'm like, but Dad, do we need to hire somebody? I know I can hire an older fellow that worked for me before. Um, because I said, why don't you oversee things? You become more of a managerial role and show them what needs to be done. But he's still old school.
It's
No,
hard
no,
to get
no.
off the tools. You can't just get
It
off the
is.
tools. Your dad's
And
not
he's
going to
got
just
the
get off his
arthritis.
tools.
It's like
Of
he's
course
all
he
buff.
does. Of course he does. Well,
Yeah,
teaching videos, I'd like anything. You know, you've got these guys. I've got some guys that said, look, I plan to retire soon. I said, look, you're 64. The last thing you need to do is just go sit. And these guys have been on their tools their whole life. The last thing you need to do is just go sit home. Don't sit home.
that's not,
I said, give me 2 days. Give me 2 days. Give me drop down to part time. Just give me 2 days. I want you to come in. I still want you to instruct some of these younger guys because you've got the wealth of knowledge.
yeah,
You go sit home. How are we going to solve these problems without you?
right.
You know? And obviously one day we'll have to, but to the point, if we can get these guys to train and instruct the next generation or make SOPs, make how-to videos, SOPs, right? Standard operating
Yeah,
procedures. Make these how-to videos of breaking down what your dad's doing. And honestly, if you're not capturing that now, you will lose it.
yeah, right, right.
You will lose it. And so
True.
that's a reality of capturing how they break down these parts in videos in detail. Um, yeah, so there's a number of things I think you can do that will preserve what you're doing. The revenue will keep flowing in. The orders are going to keep flowing in regardless. And like you said, maybe it's not about growing and trying to hit, 10 million bucks in sales. And maybe it's not all about full blown revenue. Obviously, higher returns. But parts is a whole nother conversation. That's a that's a whole nother.
That's
Hopefully, all the people that Germany's let in over the past 10 years, they're actually training them how to build quality parts.
well, I've met people that are making the parts, in their shop. So the first PBD podcast I went on, there's a guy that Porsche restoration shop that's up in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And he agrees with me. The parts quality sucks even for the Porsche, so they're making their own parts. So
Wow,
there are some guys doing VW parts. So he's actually sending me some prototypes for VW stuff. But this is just unfortunately there's a huge array of parts that need updating. So, but yeah, look, running a business is there's hurdles. It's a roller coaster, and there's shit that's going to be thrown at you every day that you got to handle.
that's it.
And this is just part of the growing pains of it all. This is what we got to face, and are we man enough to stand up to it? And like you said, make the change. So you gave me a good outlook, to give me some promise there. I didn't have that light at the end of the tunnel for me. I
Yeah,
was saying to myself,
I think that I think the reality is we all face challenges within our industry. That's the reality. And either we can listen to all the voices telling us that everything's gone to hell in a handbasket, right? We can listen to
okay,
those voices, and that's an old saying that your father, I'm sure, has said.
yeah,
Uh, because my father said that a lot. But the reality is that we need to be the generation. You and I need to be that
yeah,
generation that hears. We listen to the reality of what our parents have told us. We see it, but we can be the ones that say, "Look, that's not going to be our outcome. We're gonna start to make the change right now. This is how we're going to engage the young generation. The young generation. We need to engage them, and that's the 10 to 20. That's
yes,
the 10-year olds that you start engaging with them. And that's that. By the time 12 years old, I was tearing things apart in my shop and I was building
yeah,
things. 12
yeah,
years old, I was working with my hands. So that's when you get them. That's where you bring them in. That's where you start coaching them and doing shops and hey, bring your kids to come and check out a VW shop and your grandkids, whatever it is. Just plant those seeds. And if we
yeah,
don't do that, nobody else is going to do it, right? And
right,
so if we do it, then they're like, hey, he's doing that. I should do that with my other shops.
yeah.
So it is. It's got to be a visionary. We have to be a visionary in our business, and we got to be a visionary for our society of how we can bring change to it in a very small way that'll have a big impact over years.
And I'm still surrounded up there with guys that worked for Volkswagen back in the day. I mean, my good friend Lucky Larry, man, that guy is 70 years old, and he remembers taking the cars off the boat and taking the Cosmoline off of them,
Wow.
when they were being shipped in from Germany. And then there's another friend of mine worked for Volkswagen. He was the original troubleshooter, encyclopedia of knowledge. He
Yeah.
knows all the little change. I mean, just knows so much information and such a great mechanic. Um, so they
Time
are.
to
I still
scoop
have
it.
access to these guys. You know.
That's time. It's time to scoop it before it goes with them.
Yeah.
That's always been my biggest. I tell so many of these older guys that have worked with me in the trades of construction and building. I said, look, do not take that knowledge with you. There's so many. They'll take it to the grave with them. There's so many
Yeah.
of these. I love employing older folks because they have such wisdom. And our society says, wow, let them just go retire. Just get them out of here, right?
Yeah.
Go put them off to the corner. Let them just die in the corner. That's such a disservice to our family, right? And to the generation that actually brought good value. And so I think that if anything, if we can extract that knowledge, if we can extract that wisdom, and the power of video, right? Shoot, I mean, just record it, chronologue it, and then make it into how-tos and teachable videos for your
Yeah.
own company. SOPs, man, with videos, that's huge. Hey, look, this is actually how we do it. This is how we do it. Now you've honored the older generation. You've brought them
Yeah.
honor by showing them they have value because they feel like they're washed up, or society's telling them they're washed up. And so there's a lot of things that we can do that really will kind of ignite, respect, appreciation, and it's demonstrated. It's transferred from the older generation it's transferred like how it was transferred to us, right? It wasn't. Oh, you're going to start a business. Oh, you think you're going to start it? It's like, oh, what kind of business were you going to start? Hey, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What do you remember? It was how it was expected of us. What are we going to do to bring value, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so that's the same thing. It's like the torch being passed to the younger generation. We've got to do that
Yeah.
for
I
them.
hear you. Yep.
So I don't know. I'm excited, man. I'm glad to have connected with you, Chris.
Yeah, same here, man. It's always good to like-minded. We're like-minded. I could tell.
That's
You
it.
know.
I was
We're
going to say,
definitely.
I wanted to see, Marty. So your dad's, sir, how long did he serve in the PD?
He just did his 20 or 22 years. He
Okay.
wanted
So
once he.
he's just retiring.
No, he retired in like 90, 91, something like
That's what I'm
that.
saying. Okay. He
Yeah.
had to have served. He served with my cousins, Marge and Marty Dunn.
Oh, okay.
He served down there. I'm certain of it. They still live in, they live on, well, they're on Long Island. They live in Long Island. But if he served in New York, NY, where did he serve? In Brooklyn,
The
Bronx? Where did
the
he serve?
the 2-4. So I think that's like around Harlem.
Okay. Harlem. They say that's a jungle. Especially
He
when he was
doesn't
there.
really. He don't talk about it. I don't hear
Yeah.
much. About
Yeah.
any of that stuff. But
He's
I
got
think
some stories. I know he does.
when he got to his end, I from what he told me, they wanted him to go into undercover in narcotics,
Ooh,
and he was like, "I got 5 kids. I'm not
I
doing
don't
that
want to go
anymore."
in. No, no, no,
You
no.
know.
That's,
So
yeah.
he was starting a landscaping company. Yeah, he was running that for a few years. I mean, my dad would do the overnights in the city, you know, and then come home and get on his truck to go out landscaping all day long, come back home, maybe sleep a couple hours, and go back to work overnights in New York City. So he was,
This is
some days
insane.
he said I was up 36 hours straight, so between working the landscaping and who does that anymore? Like that's just work, man. I mean, it just,
That was a generation that did that.
yeah,
They did it. It wasn't like one-offs. Like your dad he was demonstrating what a lot of guys and gals did. They put the
yeah.
energy and effort in, and it got him ahead. It got him
It's,
ahead, and he did it for you and your siblings.
yeah, that's what it's all about. It's all about the kids. It was all about that. And he's a simple guy. You give him a cup of coffee in the newspaper, he's happy, he's content. So, um, yeah, man. I mean, I miss him every day. I mean, I talk to him every day, but I miss seeing him, and
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, it was just I'm his only son. So
Oh,
we kind of had
you have 4 sisters?
4 sisters,
Are you the oldest? Are you the youngest? What are you?
middle,
Wow.
2 younger,
Wow,
2 older.
I
Yeah.
love it. So my wife and I, we have 5 kids. We have 4 girls and 1 boy as well.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Rocco is our youngest. So it took
Okay.
me 15 years to have my son.
Very good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
dude, it's
great.
good. Well,
Very
Chris, dude,
cool.
it was good chatting with you.
Hey guys, if you liked what you heard and you want to learn more about Chris and the classic Volkswagen Bug, we've included his information down below. Check him out, connect with him, subscribe to his channel. While you're subscribing to his channel, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell on our channel as well. If you like the content that we're creating, please share this with your friends as well. If you know somebody that you would like to have on our show, you think it would be great to interview them, share it with us, guys. That's what we're here for, is to connect with you. So thanks so much again for tuning in. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.